Welcome to the introduction for this course. What are the course requirements? You need a computer and internet connection to follow along with this course. Who is this course for? This course is for anyone who wants to learn something new. What is the course format? The format of the course is video. JDK and NetBeans bundle. What is JDK? JDK stands for Java Development Kit. It is a software development environment used for developing Java applications and applets. It is free to download and use. It is provided by Oracle. It contains various tools that helps us build applications. The tools includes a compiler. A compiler basically helps us to compile our written Java code. The compiler is known as Javac, which is Javac. That's actually the Java compiler. It also consists of an archiver, which helps us to package and distribute our Java files. The Java files are known as jar.exe. Also consists of a document generator to help us generate HTML from our Java files, and that is known as javadoc.exe. JDK also includes the Java runtime environment, which is known as JRE, and the JRE actually contains JVM. So it includes the runtime environment known as JRE, and that JRE includes JVM, which is known as Java Virtual Machine. If you are only interested in running Java programs, all you need basically is just the JRE. However, if you are interested in developing Java program, you will need the JDK. What is NetBeans? NetBeans basically is what is known as an integrated development environment, known as IDE for short. NetBeans basically lets you quickly and easily develop Java desktop, mobile and web application, as well as HTML5 applications with HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So the IDE provides a great set of tools for using other languages as well. For example, you can use the IDE to develop PHP programs, C++, and even C programs. With NetBeans, you can create applications faster. It includes integrated text editor that enables you to write your code more efficiently. It contains a graphical user interface. You can debug. You can run your code and compile your code from it, and also run your application from within the NetBeans IDE. NetBeans is provided by Oracle. It is cross-platform. That means you can use it on any operating system that's running Java. For example, you can use it on a Windows, on a Mac, on a Linux machine. It supports multiple languages. So using the NetBeans, you can develop applications for PHP, for C, and for even C++. To install the bundle, which is the JDK and the NetBeans, you just type in, just type in Oracle, so Oracle JDK and NetBeans bundle. Alright, so if you type in that and you should get something listed, I would go for the first option, this one here. Click on that and it takes you to the Oracle download page. So you get the JDK with the NetBeans. So these must be the current version of JDK and NetBeans. Before you can download, you need to accept the license agreement. So click on I accept. And once you've done that, you need to select the download option that is relevant to your operating system. If you're on the Windows, you need to select if you're running Windows 32-bit or 64-bit. So you download whichever is relevant to your operating system. I am running a Windows 32-bit, which is this one here. So I'll be downloading the Windows x86. The way you can find out if you're on a Windows, that is, if you want to find out if you're running a 32 or 64-bit, you right click on my computer icon, go properties, and it should tell you where it's got system type. It will say 32-bit or 64-bit. So that's how you can tell. So I've got 32-bit, so I'm going to download this option. I'll click to download, and that's my download there started. It's 317 megabytes. So make sure you have enough disk space. Alright, the download has completed. Please note that you may be prompted to sign in to Oracle if you haven't got an account. So if you are prompted and you haven't got an account, you need to register before the download can progress. It may not always prompt you, but if it does, it's fairly straightforward to register. So I'm just going to run my downloaded file. I'll just double click on the .exe and to begin the installation. So I give it a few minutes to load up. Alright, so it has started. So it's configuring the installer at the moment. Alright, if you've already got JDK installed, you might have JDK installed if you got other applications using it, like I have. So you may get a warning here telling you that JDK update 1.2.1 is already installed. Click next if you want to proceed. So it thinks I've already got that, so it's asking me to proceed with the NetBeans installation. So I'll click next, and I'll just accept all the default. I would advise you do the same. And there's an option here to check for updates. It will update that automatically. I would just do it, doesn't matter. I'll click install. Once the installation is completed, you should get a pop-up, a box come up like this. So it tells you what has been installed. Here for me it's saying 18 updates successfully installed. And you've got this option here to contribute to the NetBeans project by providing anonymous usage data. So you can uncheck that for now. It's up to you. I'm going to uncheck that for now. And that's it. And it also places an icon on the desktop. So just click on the finish button to exit this box. So that's it for this lecture. In this lecture, we successfully installed the JDK and NetBeans bundle. Thank you for watching, and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to create our first Java program. Previously, we installed the NetBeans IDE, which would have placed a NetBeans icon on your desktop. So double click on this icon. If you can't see the icon, you can also access it via all programs. And within the programs menu, there should be an option for NetBeans. So you can access it by clicking it from there or from the desktop. So let's click to launch the application. So you can double click and that will launch the NetBeans IDE. When the IDE opens, you should see a menu like this. You should see a start page. You can just click X to exit out of the start page. And this is what the IDE looks like. So this here is the editor area. So to begin, let's create a new project. So from the File menu, click on File, click on New Project, and within the project categories, make sure you've got Java selected, and on this side, make sure you've got Java application selected. Click the Next button. And you are given this window. You need to give the project a name. So we're creating a very simple application or program. So I'm going to call this Hello World. Okay, and also notice here we've got an option here to create a main. If you also take note of the project location, so this is where the project folders will be saved to. Usually it's in your documents folder. And then here we check this because we want the IDE to create the main class for us. So it's going to create a main class by us ticking this box, and it will call the main class hello world. So click finish, and the IDE will generate some code for us. So the IDE has generated some code for us, and on this right pane here, it gives us the name of our project, and here there's this navigator area basically tells us what is in our project at the moment. So at the moment, just say we've got a main method. So let me just drag this down. This area here is the editor window, is the NetBeans editor. This is basically where you write your code, and this is the output. This is where your code will output when you run the code. NetBeans has generated this bunch of code for us. It also has some comments here. Comments basically just gives you some information about the code. Here it tells you this is where you need to write the logic for your application. So you can leave it or you can just get rid of them. So I just highlight, get rid of them just to create some space. You just highlight them. Although you can leave them if you wish, when the application runs, the comments are ignored, so they would not impact on the application running. So now I've got rid of the comments. We've just got some simple codes here. These are line numbers. They're quite important so that when there's an error in the code, you can easily locate the line number where the error occurs. In between this main method here is where you write your code for the program, in between these curly braces. So I'm just going to tab down a little bit. I'm only going to write one line of code. And what that line of code will do, it will print a simple message that will be outputted here. And the message basically is just going to say, hello world. So to do that, we need to use a method called system.out.println. So I'm going to type in system. The S is uppercase. System.out. This here is known as IntelliSense. When you're trying to type, and normally when you type in a dot, it tends to give you some suggestions in terms of giving you clues of what you're trying to type. So if what you want to type is listed in the suggestion, you can just click on it and it will add that code. So I'm going to do system.printout.print. So it's giving me some more search suggestions. This here is known as IntelliSense. So this is actually what I'm trying to type in, println. So, and then in between this parenthesis here, this method, I need to specify what is going to go into there. So I want a text to be printed out on the screen. So I need to enclose it in quotes. When you are typing in text, or text is also known as a string, you need to enclose it in quotes. So I'm going to type in hello world, and that is basically it. Every line of statement or code should end with a semicolon, just like when you're writing a sentence. It's always good to end your sentences with a full stop. All right, so that is basically the code done. So to run this code, we need to click on this button there, or we can right click on the project here and click on run, and that would do the same thing. So I'll do run, and I'll expect it to output hello world in the output. There you go. It's done the job. Hello world, build successful. Total time 1 second. All right, so we have successfully created our very own first Java program. So well done. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to look at the basic structure of a Java program. In our previous lecture, we created a program called Hello World that outputs the word Hello World on the screen. And this here is the structure of the code. Okay, so we're going to go through each of this line to explain what it is or what they do. The first line here, we've got package followed by the word Hello World. Hello World is the name of the package. Basically, what that means is that this statement here tells the compiler that the Java file we wrote belongs to the Hello World package. Yeah, a package is simply a grouping of related classes and interfaces. Don't worry if you don't know what classes are. We will cover them as the course progresses. An interface is basically the view. So if you don't know what an interface is, don't worry also. We'll also cover and we'll interact with an interface or interfaces as the course progresses. I just want you to just focus on just this basic structure. So when you hear of a package, you know basically a package is simply a grouping of related classes and interfaces. So by writing the package Hello World at the top of this editor file, we are asking the compiler to include this file in the Hello World package. The compiler will then create a folder named Hello World. The compiler then saves that Hello World into that folder. So the package is saved in a Hello World folder. And that folder is normally saved in your documents folder. So let's navigate to that folder. So if you go to Start, Documents, you should see a folder called NetBeans Projects. Click on that. That's the Hello World I was just talking about. So this is where the package is. So if I click open that now, all this is the package. So it contains related classes and interfaces for the program. So this here is the folder where the Hello World package is saved to. If you open the Hello World folder, within that Hello World folder, you find another folder called SRC or source. If you click on that, you find a Hello World folder. This folder stores the files of the Hello World package. It is a convention to name our packages or to name the packages in lower case. So note that Java is case sensitive. It's a case sensitive language. So Hello World in uppercase is not the same as Hello World in lower case. One of the advantages of declaring packages is that it prevents naming conflicts. So two or more files can have the same name as long as they belong to different packages. This is basically similar to how you have two or more files of the same name in your computer, but they belong to different folders or directories. So if I click into this Hello World folder, you will see the file. So this is hello world.java. So Java programs usually have the .java extension. The next code we want to look at is the class. So we've got a class here called Hello World. And notice the class here starts on line 3 here. And when you create a class, you have to also have curly braces. So this is the opening curly brace and this is the closing curly brace. And any code between the class will be executed. Notice the word public before the class. A class can either be public or it can be private. When a class is public, it means that the class can be accessed by any class in the program. Okay? However, when the class is private, it means that it can only be accessible to other classes within the same package. The curly braces here highlighted are basically used extensively in Java to indicate the start and the end of a code element. So it indicates that the code starts there and it ends there. So you must always have an opening and a corresponding closing curly braces. Notice that within the Hello World class, we have a method called main, this main method here. Okay? Public means public. Void means it does not return anything. That's what void means. The keyword static, what that means, basically it allows the main method to be called without having to instantiate a particular instance of the class. So when we're learning about class, you know more about instantiation. So what that means is that you don't need to instantiate or create a class for the method to be called. This is important. This is put there because the reason that it's there really is that when the Java interpreter or compiler, when it actually calls the program, it will want to check for that. So what I mean here is that the actual main method is called by the Java interpreter before any objects are made. And the word void, this keyword void, also simply tells the compiler that the main method does not return a value. Notice the word string inside the parentheses. So we've got parentheses here and it closes there. So you've got string and you've got this symbol here. Where you have square brackets, it means that that is a symbol for an array. So basically what it's saying that this method here can accept a string of text, as an array. So it means that the method can take an array of strings as input. Again, don't worry too much if you don't know what arrays are. We will be covering it later in the course. This method here called main is the entry point of all Java applications. Whenever a Java application is started, the main method is the first method to be called. Also, inside the main method, we've got a line of code here. What this code does, it prints the word inside the parentheses on the screen, and the word inside this parentheses is hello world. So what this method does, it will print hello world on the screen or whatever you type in there. If you're typing in text, you need to enclose the text in quotes on either side. If you type in the text without the quotes, the compiler will complain and it will give an error in the editor and you'll not be able to run the code. Finally, we've got the semicolon. All Java code here is good to end them with a semicolon. That indicates the end of that line of code. So very important to end all Java code with a semicolon. So that is basically it for this lecture for the basic structure of a Java program. Thank you for watching and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to learn how to run your Java programs outside the IDE. The IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. This is our IDE and we have got the Hello World program we created. So to run this program outside of this IDE, we have to do a clean build. And when you do a clean build, that enables you to run the program outside of the development environment, and it also enables you to share the program with others. So let's quickly run this program and see what it does. It should just output hello world. So this is what the program does. It just outputs hello world. That's it. So let's try and build this so we can run this outside of this IDE environment. So to build the program, you go to run, you select clean and build project. It must be clean and build and click on that. And what that would do, it builds a jar file, okay, and puts it in this location here, which is the location it puts the build folder. It then also gives you a link if you want to run the program, for example, from your command line. It tells you this is what you have to type in to the command line to execute or run the program from the command. A jar file, which is this file here, is basically a Java archive. That's what it is, a Java archive, and it's a package file format, typically used to aggregate many Java class files and also associates them with the metadata and resources. For example, things like text, images, and so on. It associates them and bundles them into one file for distribution. So it's kind of like an archive, packages all this stuff into one file. Okay, so we've done a clean build of our program, and it's told us that it has put the jar file, which is the Java archive, into this location, and it's also kindly giving us a path that we can type into or paste into the command line to run the program. So first thing we need to do, let's go and check the location of the jar file. It tells us the location here. Usually it's in the documents directory. So I'm going to go start. I'm going to go documents and click on the NetBeans project. And inside the NetBeans project, click on Hello World and click on this. This folder here is key. When you do a clean build, it creates this folder called dist. Inside that folder is where you find the jar file, which is the Java archive file. This is kind of like a package file that contains the classes and other associated files like text, images, etc. linked to the project. It bundles them into this .jar file. So now we know the location of the jar file, which is inside the dist folder, and that in turn it's inside the Hello World folder, which is in turn inside the NetBeans projects folder. Now that we know where the build folders are, where it's sent the folders after doing a clean build, let's try and run this application outside the development environment. I'm just going to copy this link the IDE has kindly given me here and just paste it. So I'm going to exit the IDE. I click File to exit. So I've exited the IDE. I'm going to open up a command line. So this is my command line. I'm just going to paste that link in here. Make sure you paste it correctly. It must have the quotes at the beginning and the quotes at the end of the .jar. And then press enter. If I press enter, it should execute the program, and this is what the program does. It has outputted Hello World. So that's basically all this program will do. So this is basically how you build and run your projects or Java programs outside the IDE or development environment. So if you want to share your programs, all you need to do is go to the NetBeans projects folder, just right click, check the size. Usually they're quite small, so this is in kilobytes. You can just zip this and email that to someone and they can run the program. As long as everything is intact, you've got the dist folder and the jar file is in, they can unpack that and run the program. As long as they have the Java virtual machine running on their computer or installed on their computer. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to create the project. Open up your NetBeans IDE. I've already got my IDE opened. So to create a new project, you click on the File option here. Click File, New, and then New Project. Make sure you've got Java selected and you've got Java Application selected. Click Next. You've got the project name. Replace the default name with the name you want to call your project. So I'm going to call mine Word Count Tool. And this is where the project will be saved to. That's the project location. And this is the project file. I'm going to uncheck this because I don't want to create a main class at this stage. So I'm going to click to uncheck that and click Finish. And that should build the project for us. So this is the project now. We've now got the project built. In the next lecture, we will start building the user interface. Thanks for watching and bye for now. Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to start creating the GUI. GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. To begin creating the graphical user interface, we have to add a JFrame. A JFrame is kind of like a container form. So to do that, go to your project folder, right click on the project folder, click new, click other. Make sure you've got the swing GUI form selected, and then select JFrame form. Click next. You need to create a class, and give it a name. I'm going to call mine word count. You need to give the package a name. I'm going to call my package counting words. So this will be the name of my package, and that's the name of my class. And then click the finish button, and that will create the form. So this is the frame. So this is where we will design the interface. So let me quickly run. When you are in the design view and you want to check how your design is going, you can always click on the play button, and that will, when you run the project the first time, you get this option here, basically asking you to select the main class. We've only got the one class, so I'm just going to click OK to that, and it should run the project. It's going to be a blank project, but so this is what the form looks like at the moment. So we're going to start adding components to build the interface. Every component is represented here in this navigator area, and an active component is determined by the orange line around the component. So you can tell a component is active because it's got the red, orange, or orange line around it. So this is the frame. You can tell it's active because of the orange line. So I'm going to add a panel, and inside that panel we'll add other components. So let's add a panel. To add a panel, you need to drag it from the swing container section. So this area here is called the swing container. So I'm just going to drag a panel, and I want it to completely fill the frame. So just drag the panel until it snaps into the frame. So you can tell the panel is the active component because it's highlighted here. It's got an orange line around it, and we've got the property here. So this, where you've got the orange line, it means that component is active. It also highlights it in the navigator area, and you can see also in the property area here, it's got the container or the component name in there as well. The components are draggable. You can see these little squares around. You can use that to drag it. So I'm just going to drag that along to expand it. I'm just going to play it so that I can see what it looks like at the moment. All right, so this is what my component looks like. Okay, I'm going to exit that. I want to add some controls. So I've added a container, which is a J panel. Now I want to add some controls from this area here. So the first control I'm going to add is a label. So I'm just going to drag the label on and just drag that a bit to expand it. That's the label. Next thing I want a text area where the text will be entered. So this is a text area component. I'm just going to drag that along, and I'm going to expand that a bit. Make that a bit. Okay. So next I want a button. So I drag a button from the controls and put it here. I just you can drag to expand the component to whatever way you like. I'm just going to make that a bit bigger. Okay. Next, I want to add a text field. This one here. I drag that here. and I'll just drag a bit to make it a bit bigger. And I want to add a label, so I drag a label control from here and drag it onto there, expand that a bit, make it a bit big, and I want a couple more buttons, so I'll drag a button. I'm just going to drag one here, and I'll drag another one over here. I'll just make the buttons a bit big and a bit taller. I'll do the same here. So these components are resizable. You just drag to resize them to your taste. I'll just make that a bit bigger or taller. I've made it too tall. Just bring it down a bit. And this I will just bring it like that. So I'm happy with that. Let's quickly run that. So click on the play button so we can see what the interface looks like. So this is what the interface looks like at the moment. So it's getting there. So I'm going to stop this lecture here, and we will continue in part 2. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello, in this part we are going to complete the creation of the graphical user interface. This is where we left off in part 1, so I'm going to quickly run the program so we can see what the interface looks like. So this is what the interface looks like at the moment. This is where you enter your text. This is a button that you click that will do the count, and so on. So what I'm going to do in this part is finish the configuration of the components. We're going to modify some of the properties. I can either put a title here on the bar of the frame, or I can have one here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a title here instead, inside the frame itself. So just exit that. So to put a title inside the J panel, you can tell the J panel is selected because of the orange lines around it, and it's highlighted there, and you can see it in the property window. So I'm just going to drag a label here, and I'm going to just drag to expand that label, and inside the label I am going to change the text. So while I've got the new label selected, I'm going to change the property, the name, using the text properties. I'm going to change it from label tree, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say word count tool. I can also change the font. So I come to the font property, I click on that, and I'll select a font. I can leave the current font. I'll just come here, make it bold, and give it, gives you a preview of what it will look like. So now you can see I've got a title. So let's run the application so we can see what it looks like with the title. There you go. So I'm happy with that. It says word count tool. Alright, so that is okay for now. So I want to start changing the names of this label. So I'm going to click on this label here. You can see the orange line, which means it is active. I'll come here and change the name. I'll say type your words, and I'll come to the font area here, and I'll make that, give that 14. Okay, so it's a bit big, so I'll come back and change that to 12. I make that bold and click OK. Alright, so it's still a bit tiny. Let's drag. That's better. So let me play that. It's always good to play and see the design each time you design so that you can see what is shaping out to be. So I'm happy with that for now. Next, I'll do the same. So I'll highlight the button and I'll come to the text area of the property button and change the text. I'll just highlight that and then I'll type the text I want to be displayed in the button. So I'll say count your words, and I'll come here to the font property, click on there. I want this one to be bold. I'll make it 24. Let's see what it looks like. I'm happy with that. Count your words. What I'm going to do, I'm going to come here to the title here. I want to make that a bit bigger. Let's see what it looks like. And I'll just drag that along. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'll just move this a little bit to center it. So I'll click on the play to see how things are shaping up. So this is how the form is looking. I'm happy with that. I'll click exit. I want to change the properties for this label here, the second label. So while I've got it selected, I'll come in the properties window and change the current text to total words. This is where the words will be displayed once they've been counted. I click on the font property. I'll make that bold and I'll select that. Oh, looks, it's a bit big, so I'll highlight 12. See what 12 look like. Okay, that's okay. And next, I'll click on the text field next to that. All I want to do is just clear the text inside. That's all I'm doing for the text field. Next, I go to the second button here. I change the text. This will be my clear button to clear the text field. I will change the font. I'll make it bold and I'll make it 14. Okay, I'll do the same with this button. This will be my exit button to exit the application once I no longer need it. I click bold and click OK. So let me run this so we can see what it looks like. Okay, I think it's shaping up. I'm happy with this. This is where you type in your words. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So that's it for the creation of the GUI. In the next lecture, we're going to add some styling by changing some of the properties to make the user interface look more presentable. Thanks for watching and bye for now. Welcome. In this lecture, we are going to make our GUI or graphical user interface more presentable by adding some styling to it. So let's quickly run our program to see what it looks like. So this is what our program looks like. So we're going to make it look a bit more appealing. So to start with, I'm going to give the panel a background color. So I'll click on the panel here inside this navigator area and that will highlight it. And I've got a background property here. I'm going to click on these three dots next to it and I'll select a background color. So I'm going to go for kind of like a yellowish color for now, or something like that. Okay, I'm trying to look for, okay, I'll go for that. And so that will give me the background. So let me quickly run that so I can see. Always good to run as you make changes so you see what it looks like. So I'm going to leave the background color like that for now. So, but feel free to experiment with your colors. Next, I'm going to click on this button here. We can see the button is highlighted there. I'm going to give that a background color as well. I'm going to click on this little 3 dots. I want to make it purple. Okay, so make it purple. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, it's okay, but the text is not pronounced. I'm going to change the text color to white. So I'll come here and change the foreground color. I'll click on this dot and change it to white. Click OK. It's now showing white. If I play that again, we can see it's looking more pronounced now. Okay. Next, I want to give this button here a background color. I will give it a background color. I want to make it blue. It tells you here, this is what it looks like. It tells you the color of the sample text. So I'll make that blue. I'll change the text color, which is a foreground color. I'll click on that. I'll make it white. Okay, I'll do the same with the exit button. I want the exit button to have a background color. Let's see. Okay, I'll leave that. See, this is what the text looks like. I'll change the text color to white, which is a foreground color, and I'll run the program. Alright, so this is what it looks like at the moment. Not too bad. So it looks a bit more presentable and more eye-catching, but you can improve on this. So that is it for this lecture. So we've added some styling to make our GUI more presentable. Thanks for watching, and bye for now. Welcome. In this lecture, we are going to change the default variable names for our JFrame components. By default, when you create components in this navigator area, they are given the default name for that component. For example, if I click on this here, we know in square brackets tells you what the component actually is, and next to it, it's the name for the component. You can see here, I've got the J panel. Because I've only got just the one panel, I can rename it, or if I like, I don't rename it, but it's always good to name your components to reflect what they do. So what I can do, to change the variable names, you right click on it and click change variable names. So I know this is a J panel, so I'm going to call this WRD word count panel. So I've named that. That's now called word count panel. And I'll come here to the second one, which is this label here highlighted. I change that to WRD word label. And next I will click on that, which is this text area. It's called a J text area. I'm going to change that to, I'll take out the 1. It always gives the number 1 to the first instance in case you create more. So I'm going to call this WRD word text area, and I'll come here to this button here. It's a button. I'll right click and go change variable names. I'm going to take out the number 1 and just type in word count. This will be the word count button. And next, I'll click on that, right click. This will be the total word label. And the text box next to it, which is a text field, I'll right click and change that to, I'll take out the 1 and I make that total count. Total count text field. And here I'll right click on this button, change that to, this will be the clear button. So I type in clear, BTN for represent button for short. And I'll come here to the exit button. I'll right click, change the variable name. I'm going to call this exit BTN, which is button for short. So I've now renamed all the variable names for the components. I've got one here. This will be label. I'm going to change that to title label. Title label. And you can move the components around within this navigator area, so you can drag and resize if you wish to do so. If you don't like the way they are arranged, you just drag and move. So they are, all these items here are draggable. So you can see now all my components for the JFrame has been renamed. So the variable names have been changed. So looking at this now, I can come here and just say, oh, this is total what, this is total count text field. So the names in brackets shows you what, tells you what describes the actual component, and then next to it is the name you have given the component. So that is it for this lecture on changing the variable names for the components. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Welcome. In this lecture, we are going to be programming the exit and clear buttons. So we will write the code that will make both buttons work. So this is what our application looks like at the moment. I don't expect any of the buttons to work. So if I type in some text, click that, that would not work, that would not work, that would not work. So I'm going to write the code that will make the clear button work. So when you click clear, it will clear any text entered into the text area or the text field. Also, when you click on the exit button, it will exit the application. What we have to do is create what is known as an event handler method. An event handler method is what's responsible for responding to the actions of an event. When you click a button on a program or application, that is known as an event. But when that event occurs, you want a corresponding action to respond to that event. That is the code we are going to write. So I'm going to start with the exit button. So to do that, we generate an event handler. There are two ways we can do that. You can either right click on the label, or on the text, on the button. This is a button. Right click on the button and go events, action, or action performed. Or you can do that from the navigator window. You click right click, event, action, and then action performed. And what that will do, it will generate, you see where this flashing cursor is? It has generated what is known as an event handler. So this piece of code here is called the event handler. This is just a stub of the code. That means it's just partial code. It's not actually complete. So we need to write the actual code in here. In between these curly braces is where we write the code. You can see the editor is giving you a guide here with this comment telling you to add your handling code here. That is the code that will handle the event. So I'm just going to get rid of this comment. You can leave it there if you want. And I'm going to write the code that will respond to the button when it is clicked. It's just going to be a single line of code, very simple. So type in system, the S is uppercase, system dot exit, and then you put parentheses. Inside that parentheses, you pass in a value of 0. That 0 means that you can click on this button when the application is idle, when you finish using the application. That's what that 0 means. There's no active processing on the program. And then you put a semicolon. You always have to put a semicolon at the end of your code. So let's run that and we can test that exit button. I expect that to work now. So if I click on exit, I expect the application to close. You can see that works fine. So let's go back into the design view, and this time we are going to program the clear button, which is this button here. So rather than go this way, right click, events, action perform. We can also do it this way, just by double clicking on the button. It will automatically generate an event handler. So it is, see where the mouse cursor is flashing? It's generated an event handler there. So again, we'll write the code to handle that event in between these curly braces. So we're going to write the code that will clear any text or any input enter into the text area and the text field. So we begin with the text area. So the text area I have called, I need to look for the label name. It's very important that you specify the label the way you, so this is the name I've given it. So I've called it Word, WRD text area. So that's what I want to set. So you then do a dot set. So this is a method that will clear the text box. All right, so type in set text, and then in parentheses you enter speech marks and press and type in semicolon. So basically what this is saying is that set the text, any text that is inside this text area, I want you to clear it. This blank speech mark is what will clear any text you enter in this text area. So I'm just going to copy this and apply that to the other. We've got two other text fields. I'm going to copy that. We've got a text field, not two, we've got just one text field. So I just need to make sure I get the name of the text field right. I think I called it text field. Let's have a look if I can locate that. So we've got, okay, there it is. I called it total count text field. So I'm going to change that to total count text field. You can see it's turned green, which means the variable name is correct. If the variable name is not correct, you'll see a red squiggly line underneath it. So what basically this means is that it will set any text that is inside this text field, it will set it to blank. So let's check that out by running the application. I click play. I just drag it here. So I just type in hello student, and that wouldn't work because we haven't programmed it. But if I click on declare, it will work. If I type in, say, you can see the clear button works and the exit button works. So in this lecture, we have programmed the exit and the clear button. Thanks for watching, and bye for now. Well, welcome. In this lecture, we are going to program the word count button. So at the moment, we can enter text, we can clear the text, but we cannot perform a count. So we're going to program this count button here so that it can count whatever word you type into the text area. So let's go back into the design view, and either we can double click on the actual button, or we can right click and go events, action performed, or you can do the same from the navigator button, event, action performed, and that will generate the stub for the event. So this here where the mouse is flashing indicates that we've just created or added an event handler. So this is what will handle the response to the event of clicking the count button. So I'm just going to get rid of this text here, and in between these curly braces is where we will write the code that will handle that event when someone clicks on the count word button. First thing I want to do is create a variable. So I'm going to create a variable, and the data type is going to be a string. So I'm going to say string, and I'm going to call the variable sentences or sentence. Okay, and I'm going to set that to equals to whatever input is entered into the text field or text area. So it will be whatever is entered into the word text here. So I'm going to set that to WRD, which is the name I've given the text area. So the string sentence is going to equals to the word text area, which is where the text will be entered, and I'm going to attach the get text method, which will be used to get whatever text is being inputted into that, and then a semicolon to end the statement. So this get text method will basically grab any text that you enter into the text area. I'm going to declare another variable, but this time it's going to be a number. It's going to be an integer data type. So I'll type in int for integer. I'm going to give it the name of I. I'm going to set that to initial value of 0. And I'm also going to create another variable here, also of the same integer. You can create variables on the same line and just separate them by a comma. So because I want both variables to be of the integer data type, I'm going to leave them on the same line but separate them with a comma. And I'm going to call this variable words. I'm going to set this one to 1. So this has a value of 1, this has a value of 0. The next, I'm going to implement a loop, a for loop, so that each time the loop occurs, it checks the condition. As long as the condition is true, it will increase or add a value to the loop. The increment will be increased. Okay, so the for loop, I'm going to say for to indicate it's a for loop. And inside this parenthesis is where I will specify the condition. So I'm going to say for the I variable, which is 0, all right, you put a comma to represent the I variable here, which is this one here. So also I'm going to say this variable called sentence. So I'm going to say as long as this I variable is 0 and this sentence variable, I'm going to grab the length of whatever is in this sentence variable, which would be the text area. I'm going to attach a length method, a method that will be used to count the text. So it will be dot. It's giving you clues here. This is known as IntelliSense. So I'm just going to type that in. Dot length. I missed out the dot there. So sentence dot length. This is a method, so I need to put the parentheses. All right, and I need to put a semicolon to end that. Okay, and next I want this I variable to increase by 1 each time. When you specify a condition for a for loop or any loop, you need to place in parentheses the code that you want to execute. So I'm going to tab to expand this code, and in between here, this curly braces is the curly braces for the for loop. So I can bring that here so that it's on the same line. Okay, so inside here is where I will specify the code that will execute for the for loop. So what I've written so far for the for loop, so I'm saying for inside this for loop here, this variable I here that I declared is 0, and I say as long as I here, this variable here I, is this sign here is called less than. As long as this I is less than this sentence variable, so that means whatever you enter into the text area, the length, this dot length is used to calculate the length. As long as the length is less than the I variable, which is 0, as long as it's less than 0, keep on increasing it. So it will increase the count as long as it is less than 0. This sign here is a less than sign. So this I here is a variable. Plus plus means increase the value by 1. That is count the value. As long as the text you enter in there is less than 0, keep counting it. Each time add 1 to increase it. Plus plus means add. So we're going to specify an if statement. So we're going to say if, this is a condition, if the sentence variable dot, we're going to specify a data type called char, and so what this will do, this will convert the whatever is entered into that sentence variable, convert it into the char data type. Char means character, okay, and this basically specify the location of the character. And what I'll do, I will pass into this into the parentheses, I will pass in the variable I, which will be the location for this data type. And I am going to say inside this parentheses, as long it says if the sentence dot chart. So that means this chart represents the character for this variable. If that is equals to, you use double equals to sign to represent an equals to. You use that to check a value. A single equals to assigns a value. A double equals to checks a value. So we're saying that if that value is equals to, if it is blank, I'm going to put speech mark. Make sure you separate the quotes, single quotes, and as long as this condition is true, we want this variable here, this word variable, we want the value to increase. Do plus means increment, and that will increase the value of this. It will increase the count of this word variable. And then here, I need to come down here, just outside the loop here, I'm going to call this text. I'm going to set the text here. This is where it will display the count for the variable. So I'm going to call this text, which is WRD. So I want the count to be displayed in the text box. I've got a text box called total count. So I'm going to type that in. Total. Make sure you declare your variables or your components the way you specify them. So this is called total count text field. Okay, so I'm going to set that with a set text method, and I am going to pass in whatever value. Just going to space that out, and I'm going to attach using a concatenation. You use a plus sign to concatenate words. So what this will do, it will count whatever is in whatever account is derived from this word variable. It will add that to this total count text box. So let's run the application and see how that works. I'm going to click on play. Let me type some text in. I'm going to say, my Udemy students are the best in the world. And I'll click on count. You see it's put a count there of 9. So there's 9 words in there. So we've got our program working as designed. So you can click on clear to clear and exit to exit. So that is it for this lecture. We have programmed the count button. Thanks for watching. To deploy and run our project outside of the development environment. For us to be able to run our program outside of the development environment, we need to do what is known as a clean build. So we click on this run option here and select this option that says clean and build project. Each time you run the application or the project inside the development environment, which it creates or it builds the project and it puts it in this location inside your documents folder. There should be a folder called NetBeans. So if you click on that, it creates a folder which is a project name and puts all the files for the project inside that directory. Before we do a clean build, notice that there is a folder that is going to be added onto this. The folder is going to be called dist. That folder will contain a .jar file. That .jar file contains all the files required to make the program run outside the development environment. So let's build the project. We'll go run and go clean and build project. And it will build the project. So it's doing that now. You can see that. Let's move this up a bit so we can see what's happening. So it has completed the build of the project. It's done a clean build. The location we've just looked at is this, where it says copying the file to this location, and it says here nothing to copy. The reason it's saying nothing to copy is that each time we run our application by clicking on the play button, it builds the project. So if there's nothing that has changed since the last build, then it has nothing to copy over. The only thing it's going to add here is this folder here. It's added a folder called dist and also added a .jar file with the name of the project. So if we go back to this location now, which is a location we looked at earlier, we'll notice there's a dist folder. This is what has changed. When you do a clean build, it creates this folder and it puts a readme text and also this file called .jar. This is a compressed file that contains all the files required for the program to run outside the development environment. So for you to share this program with someone else, you need to do the clean build so that it contains the .jar file. So this folder is quite small. If I right click, it's just 132 kilobytes. So you can zip this and send it to someone in an email. And as long as they have the Java virtual machine on their machine, they should be able to run the project without installing anything else. Okay. Also, when you build a project, it also gives you some clue. It tells you here that if you want to run this application from the command line, you can do so, but you need to type in the full path and you need to include the .jar file. So this is what you'll type in to your command line or your terminal if you want to run the application outside or from the command line. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this link here, this path that it has suggested here, and paste that into my command line and run the application from there. I'm going to do a copy. I'm going to exit this IDE so we can run the program outside of the IDE. Next, I'm going to open up my command prompt and just paste in the link, or the path rather. It's not a link, it's a path. So this is a path. Make sure you've got a Java space -jar and then the path of the jar file and press enter. It should launch the, so this is the tool. So I just say thank you for being so awesome. And do a count, tells me there's 6 words. And do a clear and exit. So that is it. So this is how you can run your project or application outside the development environment, and you can also share it with others. Thanks for watching and bye for now.